Good evening. We're ready to get started on Daf Tzadi Dalet and Maseches Shabbos, and we're going to be starting on the bottom of Tzadi Gimel Amud Beis at the Mishnah, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. We've spoken a number of times in this Masechta about a concept in halacha called malacha she'eina tzricha legufa. Malacha she'eina tzricha legufa is when a person does a malacha not for the purpose with which it was done in the mikdash. I'm digging a hole for the dirt, not for the hole, or similar things like that. I'm carrying not because I want to move the thing to somewhere. I just want to get it out of my house. So there are a variety of applications of this. And in fact, according to some of the Rishonim, it's fairly well known that the machlokas in regards to malacha she'eina tzricha legufa, that when a person does a maisa, that be'etzem is the same exact act. The digging looks exactly the same, but because of my mindset, it's therefore different. A malacha tzricha legufa is going to for sure be chayav. I'm doing a malacha for the right reasons and for the purposes with which they were done in the mikdash. For sure, you're going to be chayav. But a malacha she'eina tzricha legufa, when a person does the same action but with the wrong intentions, with a secondary intention, not a primary intention, that is subject to a machlokas tanaim, a famous machlokas tanaim between Rav Yehuda and Rav Shimon, where Rav Yehuda says you're still going to be chayav midoraisa, and Rav Shimon holds that you are pater. And according to some Rishonim, this Mishnah is the Marimakom for the Shita of Reb Shimon, even though it doesn't make mention of Reb Yehuda in this regard, and even though Reb Shimon's Shita is mentioned in somewhat of a backhanded way, but today we're going to be speaking in great part about this sugya of Malacha She'ein Tzricha Legufa. Let's get started 6 lines from the bottom. Hamotzi ochlin pachos mikashir bekli, pater af al hakli. If a person is going to bring food, pachos mikashir, it's less than a grogros on Shabbos, and you're going to carry it in a container. So you're pater, af ala kli, you're even going to be exempt for having carried the kli. We don't nickel and dime. You carried pachos mikashir, half of a grogros, let's say, or 3/4 of a grogros, and you carried it in a cup. So you're not chayiv at all. We don't look at the kli as a separate entity. We say that you are exempt. Why? The Mishnah here gives its rationale. Shakli tfeila lo. We've learned about this principle before, about ikr v'tafel, most commonly applied when one is eating cereal and milk, where the bracha on the cereal is different than that of the milk. So we say that there's ikr v'tafel, that when we make a bracha on the cereal, either it exempts the need for milk because the milk is tafel, it's completely secondary, and therefore the shahakol on the milk doesn't apply. Or maybe the lamdus is a little bit different, is that not that it doesn't apply, but that the bracha mazonos covers the shahakol. Either way, the svara here is that the kli is tafel to the food. And because the kli is tafel to the food, and because you're carrying less than a shear, so even though the kli itself may be a shear in and of itself, we would still say that you're pater. Continues the Mishnah, esachai b'mita, if a person's carrying a person who's alive in a bed, pater af alamita. You're pater for carrying the person, and you're also pater for carrying the bed. We'll see why shortly. Shamita tfeilalo. And the reason why you're pater on the mita, we don't know why you're pater on the person yet, because the person is obviously larger than a grogros. Why would you be pater on the mita? Because the mita, the bed, is secondary to the person. You're not carrying the bed for the sake of the bed. You're carrying the bed for the sake of the person that's on the bed. And we'll see in the Gemara why you are pater on a person who is alive. However, in contrast to this person who is alive, es hameis b'mita chayv. If a person carries a bed that has got Rahman al-Islam, that has a dead person on it, so there the din is that one is going to be chayiv. And continuing on the theme of that upon which you are chayiv, says the Tana Kama, v'chein kezayis min hameis, if a person carries a small amount of a dead body, ukezayis min hanevela, a small amount from an animal that's in the vela, ucheadasha min hasheretz, and a very small amount of bone from a sheretz, from one of the shmona shratz, and one of the 8 types of animals that transfer tuma. In all of those cases, you'll be chayiv for carrying on Shabbos. However, and these are the words that I was sharing in regards to the Divrei Hakdama of the Malacha She'ein Tzricha Legufa, that Reb Shimon poter. Reb Shimon says that you're going to be pater. If you'll just keep a finger right here, 3 lines from the bottom, and look on Daf Tzadi Dalet Amud Aleph in the Tosfos, there's actually a Tosfos that's in the wrong place here. It's the longest Tosfos toward the bottom of the page, 4 lines down in the widest lines. It says Reb Shimon poter. If you look in the Gilyon, it would say that this is shaykh to our Mishnah. So if we read the very beginning of this Tosfos, we'll see the Shita and the Rishonim that explains that this is in fact the Shita of Reb Shimon that paters in the case of Malacha She'ein Tzricha Legufa, that says that when one does an activity, the same activity as one would do to be chayiv, but their mindset is otherwise, so then it lowers the status of their avera from an Isser Doraisa to Pater. So it says Tosfos over there on Tzadi Dalar Maralach Dubur Hamaskal Reb Shimon Poter, near the Ri, it appears to the Ri, one of the Balei Tosfos, the Malacha Shein Tzricha Legufa Kari. How do we know when something is a Malacha Shein Tzricha Legufa? It's defined as follows. Kshe'ose Malacha, when you do an activity, I don't need it for the purposes for which they needed it in the Mishkan, but rather I'm doing it for another reason. That's the whole reason why it was usher in the first place, is because of the way that it was done in the Mishkan. And finally, just one last line, one half of a line in this Tosfos. Why is it that Reb Shimon patered all of these cases of the mace and of the nevela and of the bicha adasha? Why did he pater those? Because ein tzarech lemace. When there was carrying that was done in the Mishkan, we needed the item for something else. We didn't just need to remove that item from our house. And that, going back to our Mishnah, the last 3 words of Reb Shimon Poter, that's kind of the lumdus. That's how the Balei Tosfos explained the Shita of Reb Shimon. The Malacha Shein Tzricha Legufa is pater to the extent that one is doing an action that has no real primary purpose, but really you're only doing it for secondary reasons. The Gemara now opens with a slight contrast to our Mishnah. If you recall, at the beginning of our Mishnah, we spoke about carrying out food that was pachos mikashir. Here, as the Gemara opens 3 lines from the bottom, we'll see a critical difference. Tanu Rabbanon hamotzi ochlin kishir. Let's say you are taking out enough food in volume. Im bekli, if you're carrying it out in a kli, chayev al ha'ochlin upater al ha'kli. Then you're going to be chayev on the food, because unlike our Mishnah where the food being carried was less than a shear, here the food is a shear, so you're chayev on the food. However, upater al ha'kli, you're still going to be exempt on the kli, because as our Mishnah indicated, the kli is still tafel, it's still secondary to the food, and therefore one would still be pater on the kli. Continues the Gemara, but if in fact you needed the kli, then you would have a second isser. You'd have one isser of carrying a grogeris of food, and you'd have a second isser for carrying a kli. Immediately picks up the Gemara with something that's very, very bothersome. What does the Gemara ask? Shmami, no, what seems to be the case from here? That it would be true that ochel shnei zeisei cheleb behelam echad chayiv shtayim. It would imply that if a person ate 2 zeisei cheleb, 2 shiurim of an isser of fat that one is not allowed to eat off of an animal, and he did so behelam echad in one moment of forgetfulness, it would have implied that you're chayiv too. But we've learned a dozen times in our Masechta that that's not true. We've learned that one is going to be held accountable for only one for that singular lapse of memory. So how does that work out over here? This source in the Tanaim with which the Gemara opens seems to be super clear that you have 2 separate chiyuvim, one for the food and one for the kli. But why? It should all be done under the guise of one mindset. I did one mice. I carried out food. Yes, it was soup. What did you want me to do? Carry with my bare hands? I carried it in the kli. So why do we not view it as one thing? Why here does the Gemara clearly stipulate that you're violating 2 different isurim, one for the grogeris of food and one for the kli? Answers the Gemara on the very last line of Tzadi Gimel Amud Beis, turning to the top. Amar Rav Sheisha Sacha b'may askin, and what must be going on in this case? Kigon sheshagag al ha'ochlin behezid al ha'kli. Maybe you were shogeg on the ochel, so you're going to be you're going to have a chiyuv chatas vehezid al ha'kli, and the reason why you're pater on the kli is that you're hazid on the kli. But if you had done so with tzorech, you would be chayiv. It says the Gemara that doesn't work either. That doesn't work either, because maskif la Rav Ashi v'ha'anan al hakli af al hakli tani. It says even on the kli. You can't say that the isser is only in one place. The isser has to be in both places. Why? Because it says you're even chayiv on the kli. What does that imply? That you were chayiv on something else. Namely, you're chayiv on the food. You're even chayiv on the kli. So it still implies that you're chayiv 2 chiyuvim, which still doesn't fit with the principle that we know that when one does 2 isurim behelam echad, when one violates 2 isurim in one lapse of memory, they're only chayiv 1. So therefore, answers the Gemara second line. Ela amar Rav Ashi kigon sheshagag bazo vazeh. Really, there was shogeg in both cases, and you're going to be chayiv in both cases. Why was it not considered to be behelam echad? Because it wasn't behelam echad. The nodalo, he was informed about his first isser, and then v'chazer v'nodalo, and then he was later informed about his second isser. And this refers back to a machlokes that we learned earlier, ubeplugta, Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, and Rashi here refreshes our memory on the second line. Rashi dibur hamaschel beplugta de Rabbi Yochanan Reish Lakish to ifligu b'yedias mechalkos beperak klal gadol. Do we say that yedios are mechalkos, and do we say that our memory makes a difference? If lugnami Rav Sheshes for Ravashi hacha, we'll see soon that that's going to be the case here, whether or not we say yedios are mechalkos. But that's how we create a new kimta in this particular case, this new case introduced by the Gemara, not our Mishnah. Our Mishnah was talking about a case where there was only less than a shear of food being carried. But the Gemara presents the case in the Tanaim where you're carrying a full shear of food and you're chayiv twice. Answers the Gemara, you're right, it doesn't follow the normal rules. Here's our kimta, where you did both of them b'shogeg, but it was v'nodalo and then v'chazar v'nodalo. You had two episodes of Yediyah and Yedios are mechalkos, as is evidence from Rashi. And that brings us to the 2 dots, 5, 6 lines down, Tzadi Daled Amud. Let's continue. We said there, Esachai b'mita pater af al hamita. Why would you be pater? If I walk outside in the Rishus HaRabim carrying a child, carrying anybody, wouldn't I be chayv? Isn't it an Isser Doraisa to carry? So says the Gemara, a very important principle. Leima masnisin Reb Nasan v'lo Rabban. The Gemara says maybe we should assume that our Mishnah is like the Shita of Reb Nasan and not like the Shita of the Rabbanan. How so? The Tanya, the Brisa teaches us the following: Hamotzi behema chayav ofler shus harabim. When one carries out a behema, a smaller behema that you can actually carry, a chaya, another type of animal like a deer or a sheep or a goat, the oaf or a chicken. If you carry those out, l'rshus harabim, listen to the language of the Tanakama. Bein chayin uvein shchutin chayev, alive or dead, you will be held accountable. Remember what our Mishnah said. Our Mishnah said that you're going to be pater if the person's alive, and you're going to be chayev if the person's dead. So where's that distinction? That's the second shita right here. Reb Nasan Omer, no. Al shchutin chayev, only if the animal is dead. If it's shechted already, would you be chayev? But al chayin pater. And then here is the key line that explains our Mishnah and the Shita of Reb Nasan and 100 other things in Shas, which I'll speak about briefly. She'achai nose es atzmo. That when there is something that's alive, it kind of carries itself. So here, this idea is an application that comes up in regards to the halachos of Hilchos Nida. We have a harchaka. One of the distinctions that the Chachamim made in order to ensure that a husband and wife would maintain the appropriate distance is that there's no hoshata miyad liyad, that a husband, when a wife is in Nida, a husband and wife don't pass things directly to one another. They put that item down. What if it's not an item? What if it's a child? So it depends. It depends. I asked this Shiloh to Rabbanim here in Chicago, and they made the following distinction. By a newborn is not chai noseas atzmo. And the Rishonim here explain how far you have to go by chai noseas atzmo. Does the animal hold itself up against you? When you hold a kid who's 2 or 3 years old, they know how to adjust their body to sit comfortably on you, and in fact, it makes it easier to carry. But when you're carrying someone very heavy who's sleeping, they feel much heavier. That's not chai noseas atzmo. So the poskim, the modern day poskim, I say by Hilchos Nida, that when it comes to a newborn, where it's reasonable, you don't put a baby down in the snow, but where it's reasonable, you put the baby down on a couch or on a bed, and then the next spouse can pick up the baby when the baby is sleeping or when the baby's too young. So this principle of chai noseas atzmo has its applications in Hilchos Nida as well, but brought here in regards to our Gemara as to why it is that when one is carrying a person on a bed on Shabbos, that's why our Mishnah says pater. It's because of this principle of chai noseas atzmo. And that's what the Gemara is now recommending, that it must be that our Mishnah is like the Shita of Reb Nasan, because it seems very clear from this brisa that the Shita of the Rabbanan is that one would be chayav bein shchutin, bein chayin. It doesn't make a difference. We don't care if the animal's alive or dead according to the Rabbanan. It must therefore be that our Mishnah is like the Shita of Reb Nasan. Very clean so far. Let's see what the Gemara says. Amar Rava, no, not so clean. Afilu tema Rabbanan. Maybe you could even say that our Mishnah is also talking about the Shita of the Rabbanan. How so? We just saw that the Chachamim said in our Mishnah, Ben Shchutin, Ben Chayavin. Yet in our Mishnah, we saw that it's only going to be pater when the animal's chai, when the person's alive. So it says the Gemara as follows. Amar Rava, afilu tema Rabbanan. I could even explain how it's the Rabbanan. Ad kan, until now, lo pligi Rabbanan ali the Rab Nasan al behema chayva of the Masharvatain of Shayu. When is it that the Rabbanan argued with Reb Nasan? That's by a behema, by a chaya, and an oaf, the misharvatein afshayu, by animals that don't adjust their bodies so that you can hold them comfortably. They're not really noseas atzmo. You have to carry them based on however they want to be held, but They don't adjust to you. They're not like that. Aval, but maybe the Rabbanan would agree to our Mishnah, which is not talking about animals. We're talking about people. Maybe in regards to our Gemara, Aval Adam Chai Denoses Atma Filu Rabbanan Modu. So therefore, says Rava, maybe our Mishnah could even be like the Rabbanan, not just like Reb Nassan, because again, the Rabbanan only argued with Reb Nassan in regards to animals, but in regards to humans, they agree to the principle of Chai Noses Atma. So maybe our Mishnah could be like both the Rabbanan and Reb Nassan because it's talking about human beings. Amalei Ravada bar Ava le Rava. Ravada bar Rava asks a question against Rava, and he says as follows: there are some restrictions in regards to animals that we are allowed to sell to a goy because of shvisas behemto. Now, if we make a full sale, it's true that there is no shvisas behemto anymore. If I sell something to a guy, let's say I sell a cow that plows the fields. So if he wants to plow the fields after the sale, no problem. But the chachamim were concerned that if I only do a she'ela, if I only do a hashala, I let him borrow the animal, or I'm socher the animal to a guy, that's still my iser of shvisas behemto. So, ledugma, let's say that a person rents out utensils that are made to plow fields. That's a shayla halacha, because if you're just a socher, if you're just renting things out, then maybe there's shvisas kelim, and by an animal, maybe there's shvisas behemto. So there were certain restrictions in regards to selling things to goyim. Yet what do we see here? B'haditnan, ben Beseira matir basus. Ben Beseira was lenient in regards to selling a horse, because horse's primary thing to do was to be ridden, and that's not an Isser d'oraisa. As we know from, I believe it's in Maseches Rosh Hashanah, that the Isser of riding certain animals was only because we're afraid that you're going to break a stick off of a tree in order to hit the animal to motivate it to run. But the riding itself, there's no Isser of riding an animal. And since that's really the primary Isser, of the primary task of a sus, of a horse, so therefore there's no Isser to start with in regards to horse, only by animals who have a primary Isser that could lead to an Isser of Shvisas Behemto on Shabbos. So the sus is allowed. Vitanya, that was a Mishnah. And then the Brisa, in qualification of this Mishnah, adds, Vitanya ben Beseira matir besus. Why was ben Beseira lenient on the animal of a horse? Because mivnei shu osa b'malacha shein chayav v'nolav chatas. Because in general, the act that a sus does is just carrying someone, and that's not a malacha upon which you would be chayav. It's an Isser d'Rabbanan, but it's not an Isser d'Oraisa. So we have a Mishnah, and then we have a Brisa explaining the Mishnah. And now we have a comment of an Amora, Rav Yochanan, explaining the Brisa and the Mishnah. What does he say? Rav Yochanan, ben Beseira, Rav Nassan, Amru davar echad. It seems to be that ben Beseira and Rav Nassan, they are on the same page. Now, what is implied by saying that ben Beseira and Rav Nassan are on the same page? Who seems to be left out? The Rabbanan. It seems to be the Rabbanan are left out. Now, this Gemara all started out by saying maybe our Gemara is only like Reb Nassan. And then Rava himself said, no, we could even say it's like the Rabbanan. And in fact, that's how Rava understood our Mishnah, that our Mishnah could either be talking about the Rabbanan or Reb Nassan. Yet we see that Rav Yochanan made this comment that only Ben Beseira and Reb Nassan were the same. Where's the Rabbanan? So asks the Gemara a little bit more than halfway down. The Amris, the low pligi Rabbanan alei the Rab Nassan el bebehema v'chayev ofishum the misharvete nafshayu. If you're saying that the only time that the Rabbanan argue on the sheet of Rab Nassan is in regards to animals because they don't balance their bodies against yours, but really be'etzem the Rabbanan and Rab Nassan agree in regards to a mace, that's in regards to a chay, a human being, that we say chay no se'es atzmo. So then why did you say this line? My irya ben Beseira v'Rab Nassan. Why, Rav Yochanan, did you then say that the party line is that we have over here Reb Nassan and Ben Beseira? Where are the Rabbanan? They agree in regards to a human being that Chai is no seis atzmo. So Rava, I don't understand. You have two worlds that don't seem to contradict. You have our understanding of the Mishnah, that Rabbanan and Reb Nassan are the same, and you have the story in regards to the Sus, that Ben Beseira and Reb Nassan are the same. Why did you say that? Or why did you not at least include the Rabbanan? Or say nothing? So answers the Gemara, because, one more line. Everyone should agree. All three of them should be on the same page. Answers the Gemara, Ki Amar Rav Yochanan. What was Rav Yochanan speaking about when he made an equivalence between the Shita of Ben Beseira and the Shita of Rav Nassan? What was that talking about? The Susam Yucha the Ophos. That's talking about a horse that was specific to hold certain types of birds. This is the Art Scroll speaks about this. This is not a word that's part of my lexicon, but there's this type of bird hunting called falconry, where they would use a bird to go pick up other birds that you shot down as a hunter. So hunting is a big shaila in halacha. If it's mutter or not, it might be tsar bali chaim, especially because you can't eat these animals. So that's a shaila and halacha lechora to Nisr Derabanan of Tsar Balei Chaim. Tsar Balei Chaim is Nisr Derabanan, so it might just be Aser altogether. That could be. So the Gemara answers here is that why is it that Rav Yochanan made the distinction to say that Ben Beseira? Why? Why is it that Rav Yochanan made the distinction to say that Ben Beseir and Rav Nassan are the same, leaving out the Rabbanan? Answers the Gemara, because we were only talking about one type of horse when Rav Yochanan made that comment, and that was this falconry horse, the horse that would hold the birds so that they wouldn't have to waste their energy to fly down to the field. They were put inside pouches and they were draped over the sides of the horse, and that's why Rav Yochanan's comment was said, but no difficulty for Rava. At the end of the day, Rava is perfectly fine, which is that our Mishnah can be either according to the Rabbanan or according to Rav Nassan, because they both agree that when it comes to a human being, 2/3 of the way down, really, is there such a thing as a horse that is specific for birds? Answers the Gemara, yes, there is. Ika de beva yada. That's true in regards to those who are bird watchers or those who are bird hunters. And those are people who have horses that are specific for this task. They don't necessarily even ride the horse down. They may walk next to the horse just enough to hold the birds. Okay, says the Gemara. Amar Rav Yochanan adds another comment. What if a person is tied down? Do we still consider that person to be chai nosei esatzmo? I gave the example earlier about a person sleeping. Same thing. Person who's unconscious, same thing. Do we consider a person who's tied down to have a status of chai nosei esatzmo? So Rav Yochanan says, Umoda Rav Nassan would agree that that's problematic. He would agree that that's not going to work, that they don't have a din of chai nosei esatzmo, and therefore, unlike our Mishnah, which says that everyone who's alive is chai nosei esatzmo, he would agree to our Mishnah that he would agree, assuming that the Tanna Kama would as well, that our Mishnah would not work. We would not say you're putter if you carried out someone who was tied up. Says the Gemara, Amalei Ravada Baravale Abaye, Behahani Parsai Dechaman de Kvise Damu. There were these Persians who would never get off their horse. They would never, ever get off the horse. They'd always sit there. They would never walk. Even when the animal was feeding from a trough, they would sit right there. They wouldn't move at all. The Amar Rav Yochanan ben Beseira Rabbanan Amru Davar Echad. How could it be that they all say the same thing? It should be that Rav Nassan was modet to the Rabbanan in such a case, and ben Beseira may not even agree to that case. So answers the Gemara, Hasam by the Persians, no. Hasam Ramos Ruchahu Denakalu. Those people are just, they're balei gaiba. They're playing, they're posturing that they're such chashuva people. So they sit there and they don't move. However, Dahu, Hasam, 5 lines from the bottom, Ramos Ruchahu Denakilu. These people are just balei gaiba, because how do we know that this is true? Dahu Pardashcha, there was a particular officer in the Persian army. The Rasach Malka Ilave. He found out that the king, the Malka, was angry with him. So what did he do? The Rahit Talsa Parse Bekare. He ran 3 parsa on his bare feet in order to go to the king as quickly as he could. Why wasn't the horse faster? I don't know. It's a kash out of mice. I have no idea. Nevertheless, what do we see? We see that the Persian guy, who was a big Baal Gaiba, got off the horse in order to run. This may be where we got the phrase, get off your high horse from. It's a perfect maramakom. So this is how we know that these pardashchas, that these officers are people who were, they were not really be'etzem like kafus, like they were tied down. But Rav Yochanan does take a hold that Rav Yochanan does hold that Rav Nassan would agree that someone whose kafus would not have been the din of chai nosei esatzmo. 3 lines from the bottom, says the Gemara, as we learned in our Mishnah, es hameis b'mita chayev v'chein kezayis min hameis. We said that if a person has passed away and they're being carried out on a bed, that you'd be chayev in such a case. And as well, we said the v'chein line similarly, and we added in the case of kezayis min hameis, we added in nevela, and we added in a ke'adasha of a sheretz. So says the Gemara, Amar Rabba bar Barchana, Amar Rav Yochanan, last line of the page, but Amar Rav Yosef, Amar Rav Shimon ben Lakish. Poter, higher Reb Shimon, turning to the top of the next page, Reb Shimon used to say that people were poter afamotzi es hametz lekobro, even if a person was going to take out a dead person from their house in order to bury them. Now that's wild. It's not just that you're bringing it out because you don't want it here. You want him there. You want the mace over there. Take a look at Rashi. Di Ramaskal, top Rashi, afamotzi es hametz lekobro. The lo tema, lo poter, ela b'manicho lachutz. The ein tzarech lo legufo shel motzi, lo legufo shel otzah. Fascinating idea. This Rashi is the subject of much discussion in the Rishonim and in the Achronim, that he says that even if it's the tzorech hameis, Unbelievable, because we have a mitzvah of kavod for the mace, but the mace wants to be buried also. The Sfarim speak about this, that after a person passes away, that for the first many days after a mace, the neshama hovers over the mace itself. There's this kind of eerie time where the neshama is not so clear. The neshama is so acclimated to being in the guf that he's like, wait, where am I supposed to be? It's a very confusing time for the neshama. He's used to the body, but the body is nikbar, the body is buried. So there is a certain sorachei mace. So there we would say that you're pater. Now remember that Reb Shimon is the one who says in general that malach Hashem tzricha l'gufa is pater. So it's not surprising that Reb Shimon would say that you're pater, but it's a little surprising about how far he went, because he says in this case that when you take out a mace l'kovra that you're going to be pater. Omar Rava adds, top line Tzadi Daladam and Bezu Moder Reb Shimon b'mar lichbarbo, that if you have a hoe or a shovel and you took it out in order to dig, so then you're going to be chayiv. And also the Sefer Torah, likros, but we take out a Sefer Torah in order to read from it. In both of those cases, we would have said chayiv. Says the Gemara, pshita. I mean, come on. Rav Shimon has to have a line somewhere where he says you're chayiv. And in fact, the Gemara is explicit about the nature of how far he almost took this. If these cases were also cases of malacha she'eina tzricha legufa, if these cases were cases where you take out a shovel to dig, a Sefer Torah to read, if that was also malacha she'eina tzricha legufa, so then asks the Gemara, ela malacha she'tzricha legufa leRav Shimon, echei mishkachas la. I mean, come on, you've made it impossible for Rav Shimon to have a case that's a malacha she'tzricha legufa. It's crazy. Of course you're going to be chayiv in this case. Answers the Gemara, Ma'u detema, what might you have said? Maybe Reb Shimon took it so far as to say deika legufo ulegufa, that both it's for your benefit and you're doing something with the item. Kigon, for example, mar lasas lo tas the lachpor. You have a shovel that's broken, so you're going to fix it because it's yours. You want to make sure that it's a good product for you, and then you dig. Good for you. Good for the digging. That would be a possibility. Or Sefer Torah lehagia. There's a Sefer Torah that you first have to fix and then you have to read from. So you might have thought, Havamina, that Reb Shimon would have taken it so far that the only time we ever have a case of malacha she'tzricha legufa is this very, very far down the road case of where it has to be good for me and it has to be good for the Maisa itself. Kamash Malan, that Reb Shimon doesn't take it that far. Reb Shimon would say that even the singular purpose of not legufo but legufa, even if just for the sake of the reading of the Torah, that's why you took out the Torah, even without fixing the Torah, you'd still be chayav in such a case. Says the Gemara, "Hu shechba dehava bidrokeres," that there was a dead person in this particular city. Shara Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak la'afuke lekarmelis, and Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak allowed the people who were in the house where the mace was to remove the body and put the body in a karmelis. Of course, this would not be allowed to be done if the body was put in the sun, where the body would become would smell bad. That would not be called an mace. It would have to be a temperature that's reasonable and a place that's reasonable, so no animals could get to the person. But nevertheless, that was the din that Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said to the Balabas: you're allowed to move the mace from your home, a reshus hayachid, into a karmelis. Just as a reminder, a karmelis is one of the daled reshuyos on Shabbos. We have reshus hayachid, reshus rav, and karmelis and makom ptur. And reshus hayachid is, of course, a private domain. Reshus rav in public. The karmelis is a midorais. It's really reshus hayachid, but midorabanan the chachamim were concerned because it was like a quasi twilight zone status type of location. It wasn't clear that it was a house, and it wasn't clear that it was reshus rav, so it's called the karmelis. Fine. Says the Gemara, Amalei Rabbi Yochanan, Achva demar berei de Ravna. So Rabbi Yochanan asks a question to the Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Kiman, who are you holding like? It must be Reb Shimon. It must be that you're holding like Reb Shimon, who holds a malacha she'eina tzricha legufas pater. Asks the Gemara, that's ridiculous. This can't be Reb Shimon. Eimar de pater Reb Shimon mechiyuv chatas. You're not understanding Reb Shimon, right? The way that Reb Shimon works is not to say that malacha she'eina tzricha legufa is mutter. All we're saying is that you lose the chiyuv chatas. You lose the chiyuv chatas. Isura derabanan mihaika. It's still an isur derabanan. So why are you allowed to take the mace out of the home, which is a reshus hayachid deoraisa, and take it from there and put it in a karmelis, which is a karmelis, which is a reshus harabim derabanan? Why are you allowed to? That's not Reb Shimon. That doesn't even make sense. Reb Shimon would not say it's mutter. Reb Shimon would say it's pater. Totally different. Says the Gemara, Amar Lei, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak bites back. He says, Ho'elokim. A term of wonderment. What are you talking about? And he says a crazy line. Da'ilus be'at. You yourself would have moved the mace under the circumstances. Ve'afilu the Reb Yehuda. Even according to Reb Shimon's counterpart, who holds that malacha she'eina tzricha legufa is chayiv, it would still be mutter in this case to move the mace from inside the home to a karmelis. Why? Did I say that you could violate an Isser D'Oraisa of moving the mace from a Rishus HaYachid to a Rishus HaRabim? Absolutely not. What did I say? The Carmelist Kamina. I said you're allowed to move this person to a Carmelist, to a place that's Midrabana, not Midoraisa. And here's the Makib Patish of this piece of the Gemara. And Gadol Kavod Abrios Shedoches Halosa Sheisha Torah. We have a principle that when it comes to Kavod Abrios, that one is allowed to violate Isuri Derabana. So what was the case again? To review, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said that the Balabas in which there had in his mace, there was a mace in the home of a particular Balabas. The Balabas went to Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak and he said, Nebuch, there's a mace in the house. And he says, you're allowed to move the mace to a Carmelist. Why is that mutter? Even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds a malacha shenetzricha legufa is chayiv. Doesn't make a difference. It has nothing to do with that. We're not even talking on a Doraisa level. The whole thing is Derabanan. You're only moving from Rosh Hashanah to a Carmelist. The whole thing's Minister Derabanan to start with. And even Rabbi Yehuda would say, forget about Rav Shimon, that's for sure. Even Rabbi Yehuda would say it's mutter because it's an Isser Derabanan, moving from Rosh Hashanah to a Carmelist. And b'makom kavod abrios, it's dochetz halos aseh shebatorah. We're allowed to violate even certain Yisurim. The Gemara does say in the Torah. It doesn't mean Dinei Doraisa. Typically, it only means Dinei Derabanan. Says Gemara 1/3 of the way down. Tanan Hasan, we have a Mishnah. If a person spoke Lashon Hara and they have tzaras, hatolesh simone tuma. If a person pulls out the hairs, which themselves are part of the siman that generates your tuma. When there are two hairs, your tama, you pull them out, you change your tuma status, as we'll see shortly. So if you pull those out, or v'hichve hamichya, or if you burn off, you brand a boiling hot piece of metal on your body and you burn off the nega, over below sase, that's us. You're not allowed to do that. That's a shita in the Tanaim. It comes along the Amorim itmar. Achas mishtaim chayiv. If you pull out one of the two hairs, you're going to be chayiv because you changed your status from tameh to tahor. But achas mishalosh. What if you pull out one of three hairs? So what's left? 3 minus 1 is 2. You're still going to be tameh because you still have simone tuma. You still have simone tzaras. But if you take out that one hair and there are two left, how do we look at that? That is a machlokes in the Amoraim. Rav Nachman Amar Chayiv, Rav Sheshes Amar Pater. Rav Nachman says it's no different than the other case. And Rav Sheshes is more lenient. Why do they feel this way halfway down? Rav Nachman Amar Chayiv, Ahani Maisav. The reason why he says you're Chayiv is because your action of moving from 3 hairs to 2 hairs to try to make your status a little bit better, it's actually helpful. Why? Because then the next hair you pull out will change your status from tuma to tara. If in fact you were to pull out one more, then azla la tuma, then you would have violated the issur of changing your status from tuma to tara. But Rav Sheshes, who says that you're pater, he says, Omar pater, why? Because okay, you're closer, but you're still at the line. You haven't crossed the line yet. What does Rav Sheshes say? Why are you pater? Hashta miyas ha'yisela tuma. You still have 2 hairs. Very good. Amar of Sheshes mino aminola. How do I know that I can say that you're pater? That when there are 3 hairs and you only pull out one of them, how do I know that you're pater? Answers the Gemara Ditznan. The Mishnah writes in our Gemara that we learned today, the Mishnah that we started with today. What does our Mishnah say? That if there's a kazayis of mace and a kazayis of nevela, you're going to be chayiv. What's the inference from there? That if it wasn't a full kazayis, you would be pater. In fact, that's like the language of the beginning of our Mishnah, which is if you carry out less than a shear, you're going to be pater. Tanya, we have a brisa. Hold on 1 second. We have a brisa that says chatzi zayis chayiv. And where does Rav Sheshes get his svara from? From this rhetorical question. My love, doesn't this mean to imply that hadatanya chayiv da'afik chatzi zayis mikazayis? When do we say you're chayiv? That's when you remove half, 1 out of the 2 parts of the kazayis, just like removing 1 out of the 2 hairs of the simone tuma. However, maybe the Mishnah, which writes that you're pater when it comes to taking out a kazayis, that's when you're taking out a kazayis from a total of 3 kazesim of 1.5 kazesim. And we see there that you're pater. And that's similar. The 3 kazesim where I take out 1, you're pater. That's similar to the 3 hairs where I pull out 1, you're still pater. So Rav Sheshes has a beautiful Mari Makom. Says the Gemara, what's Rav Nachman going to do with that? The Rav Nachman? No. Idi ve'idi chayiv. Both of those would be chayiv. Both of those 2 cases that you describe would be chayiv. What does the Mishnah mean when it says that it's pater? The haditnan, when the Mishnah says pater, that's the afik chatzi zayis mimeis gadol. That's not when you're taking 1 part out of 3 parts. That's when you're taking 1 part out of a whole body, which is much larger than 3 kazesim. So there you have no longer have a Mari Makom. Rav Sheshes and Rav Nachman would answer up his shita using the same Mari Makomos, basically, and proving himself to be right as well. And that's the end of this machlokas in regards to whether or not, if one pulled out 1 out of 3 hairs of the simone tuma, when a person has tzaras, those 3 hairs within a nega, whether or not they would be chayiv or pater. Rav Sheshes says pater, and Rav Nachman says chayiv. That brings us to the next Mishnah, about 2/3 of the way down. Hanotel tzipornav zo bezo o b'shinav. A person tears off their nails. If I take this nail, but I tear it off with nails from my other hand, that's what zo bezo means. That's going to be very important language, as we'll see in the Gemara. Or b'shinav, people who are nail biters. That we'll see shortly how severe this is. V'chein saro, pulling out hair. V'chein sefamo, pulling out your mustache. Ma'inaf kamina, between hair and a mustache. Hair is hair. V'chein zikano, your beard as well. V'chein hagodelas, pulling out hair from a braid. V'chein hakocheles, putting on makeup. V'chein apokeses. This is also some type of tending to one's hair. Rabbi Eliezer mechai v'chachamim osir mishum shvus. Rabbi Eliezer says that you're going to be chayiv in all these cases. Just important to note, even though we don't paskin this way, that if one does bite their nails on Shabbos, they violate at the very least an Isser D'Rabbanan, and God forbid, even an Isser D'Oraisa. Again, we paskin that it's Midrabbanan, but nevertheless, one should certainly remain to be very cautious with their nails. For those of us out there who have such tendencies, they actually make this non-visible nail polish that makes it so that your nails taste bad, which hopefully will help. I just noticed a question now. I don't know how far back it goes. Artscroll says he got off to run and elude the king's troops. Oh, okay, that goes back a while ago. Sorry, I just saw that now. Okay, so, that explains why I said the distinction between the, why did he run instead of using the horse, because he was eluding troops. Okay, good. Thank you very much. So now our Gemara is going to open up, and here is one of those times where a little yud makes a big difference. The Gemara now opens in the name of an Amora whose name is Rab Elazar, but our Mishnah speaks about Rabbi Eliezer. So Rabbi Elazar is going to speak about Rabbi Eliezer. Amar Rabbi Elazar, machlokes, in regards to the nails, as we pointed out, machlokes biyad. The machlokes is when you tear out your nails with your hand. That's where Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim argue, where Rabbi Eliezer says chayiv, and where the Chachamim say pater. Aval bekli chayiv. However, if you use a nail clipper, or whatever the equivalent of a nail clipper was back in the day, you would be chayiv. It says the Gemara Pshita, isn't that blaringly obvious that you'd be chayiv in such a case with the kli? Zo bezot nan. What did our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah says when you take off one nail with other nails from your other hand or from the same hand. If you're going to use nails to peel off nails, that's what the Mishnah said. Of course, that's where the machlokes is. And by inference, of course, with a kli, you'd be chayiv. So says the Gemara, no, it's not necessarily true. Ma'u detema, what might you have thought? Ma'u detema, Rabbanan b'kli nami patre. You might have thought that the Rabbanan would even say you're pater with a kli. V'adekatani zo bezo. And then if that's the case, why did the Mishnah say specifically tearing off your nails with other nails? That was to teach you leodiecha kochod Rabbi Eliezer, to teach you the chiddush of the sheet of Rabbi Eliezer, that even, and that's the chiddush, even if it's only tearing off with your other nails, tearing off one nail with other nails, you'd still say you're pater kamash malan, that that's not the svara. And in fact, the machlokas in our Mishnah is only talking about tearing off with your nails, and the chiddush, and there is no chiddush of Rabbi Eliezer to say that you'd even be chayev in the case of tearing off nails with your other nails. The only time it's an Isser D'Oraisa is with a kli. The Amar Rabbi Elazar, again the Amora, not the Tana of our Mishnah. The Amar Rabbi Elazar machlokas la'atzmo v'lechavero divrei kol pater, that when one tears off nails, the machlokas is only about the person themselves tearing off nails. However, not about a friend tearing off your nails. Divrei kol pater, there everyone agrees. As I mentioned, some of the poskim write by Hilchos Nida that if a woman forgot to cut her nails before Shabbos, so there are some poskim who recommend to have a goy tear off the nails b'shinui from the woman's hands before she goes to the mikvah. So that would be this. So it says the Gemara, first of the longest lines. Pshita, isn't that obvious? After all, it's obvious because tzipor nav tnan. It says his nails. It doesn't say chaveiro. So of course the Mishnah, where the machlokas that we have between Rabbi Eliezer and the Chachamim, of course that machlokas is going to be in the case of his own nails and not his friend's nails. It says Gemara, no. Ma'u detema, what might you have thought? Rabbi Eliezer lechaveiro nami mechayev. You might have thought that Rabbi Eliezer would even say it's chayev by a friend. But if that's the case, that he's chayev by a friend, then why did the Mishnah say his own nails? That either Rabbanan would even say that you're pater, even if it's your own nails under the circumstances. Kamash malan, that that's not what we think, that there is no lo hodiecha kochan here, and that it's really a more simple understanding, very fine and clear line in the Gemara, which is to say that if a friend tears off your nails, they are pater. Just one more sugya to get us to the 2 dots toward the bottom of the page, and then we'll stop for the night. V'chein sa'aro, pulling out hair. Tana, hanota melo hazug chayev. If a person pulls out a lot of hair, they're going to be chayev. As we'll see, it's not that many hairs. V'kama melo pi hazug. How much is enough hairs? So Amar Rabbi Huda Shtayim, just pulling out 2 hairs, just a quick chazara. For those of you who use brushes on Shabbos, better to just use your bare hands instead of using a brush. But if you're going to use it, or to not brush your hair at all, but you should look like a man. So if you're going to brush your hair, you should have a brush that's specific for Shabbos. You should have a brush with very soft bristles, and you should make sure that it's a very wide bristled brush that is not going to pull out your hair. Continues the Gemara, wait a minute, you just said that Melopi Hazug is 2 hairs. Well, Tanya, Ulakor Chashtayim, that Nebach, when a person passes away, in their mourning, they should not tear out hair. And that's an Isser Doraisa as well. That's Darkei Amori. It's not an appropriate behavior for a yid. That's not how we channel our sadness and loss. So l'kor chashtayim, and because by virtue of the fact that it says by that isser that it's 2, and these 2 things are logged together in the same brisa, if this is 2, then the other one, how can you then say malo piazug is also 2? Then it should have said that both of them are 2. And in fact, that's what the Gemara answers. Ema, you're right. V'chein l'kor chashtayim. It also is true. The meaning the number of 2 applies to both of them. Tanya Nami Hachi, the Brisa supports our initial assumption that Pi Hazug is 2. Hanotam Malo Pi Hazug b'Shabbos Chayv. If a person pulls out Pi Hazug on Shabbos, you're going to be Chayv. Kama Malo Pi Hazug Shtayim. Rabbi Eliezer Omer Achas. Rabbi Eliezer holds even 1 hair. Umodim Chachamim the Rabbi Eliezer b'Malakei Levanos mitoch Shechoros. I just turned 40. The gray hair is coming in fast. So what happens if I pull out 1 hair from among the black hairs, 1 gray hair among the black hairs? So that's an Isser Doraisa on Shabbos, no matter what. It had nothing to do with Malopia, so you're not allowed to do that. And that's Usser. Not only that, and the Gemara then adds here in this Brisa, the Davar Zeh Af B'chol Usser. You can't even do that on a Tuesday. That's totally not allowed. Why? Because Mishum Shneimar Lo Yilbash Gever Simlas Isha, that is considered Beged Isha. Just interesting that the Gemara has these parameters to ensure that the gender lines are very clear in regards to parts of, in regards to how we carry ourselves. This became a whole shaila when it became standard fare for women to wear pants. At what point did the norms of society infiltrate the halachic system to then say that there's no Isser Doraisa for a woman to wear pants, which is typically male clothing? I think at this point we would argue, everyone would agree that pants are ubiquitous in the outside world. They should be totally, and in fact, l'chora, we paskin that way. In fact, some poskim ask the question, is it better for a woman to wear a skirt that's really immodest, that's overly revealing, or to wear a pair of pants? So some poskim say it's not better to wear pants because it's less revealing. So then that means that we've reached the time in our society where pants are no longer defined purely as a male garment. But had it been the case that it was purely a male garment, then it would trigger the Isser. Also, just interesting to highlight that there are some poskim that write that the definition of the reverse for a woman to wear a garment that is a man's is tefillin. Just a fascinating idea, because we normally do paskin as Ashkenazim that a woman is exempt from, everybody holds this way, that a woman is ptura for mitzvot saseh shazman grama, but if she wants to do them, she's welcome to make a bracha. So some Rishonim hold that's true by certain mitzvos, but not by begadim, not by a talis, and not by tefillin. We don't paskin that way. It's still problematic for tefillin for a woman who's a nida, but okay, for another time. Let's finish up for the night. Tanya, Reb Shimon ben Elazar, Omer, we're about 10 lines from the bottom. Siporen shapiresh ruba v'tzitzin shapir shan ruban. If a nail is mostly torn off and skin like a cuticle is mostly torn off, so then biyad mutter, to tear it off with your bare hands is fine. B'kli chayev chatas. But if you use a kli, you use the nail clippers, you're going to be chayev chatas. Asks the Gemara, mi'ika midi, is there such a scenario, de b'kli chayev chatas, where you could with a kli be chayev chatas, but biyad mutter lechatchila? The contrast is too wide. Normally we work in gradations. We would say chayev, pater avalas, or mutter. Here we see that you go from a kli, which is chayev chatas, and you go to mutter with a yad. How can that be? So says the Gemara, you're right. We do go in gradations. Hachi kamar. This is pshat in what was meant to be said in this brisa of Reb Shimon ben Elazar. Hachi kamar. Pirusho ruban biyad mutter. If most of the skin or nail is torn, then with your hand it is permissible. Bikli pater avalasar. And with a utensil is nisr derabanan. Lo pirshu ruban, however, if not most of the skin is torn, if not most of the nail is torn, then biyad pater avalasar, then with your bare hand you'll violate a nisr derabanan. And bikli chayev chatas. Amara, that's how we work it out, that there's just different cases. But some of the cases are referring to most of the skin and nails torn off, and other cases are referring to where only parts of the nails are torn off. are torn off. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, the last din for tonight, halacha Reb Shimon ben Elazar. We follow like this din of Reb Shimon ben Elazar in regards to the nails. However, with one important caveat that's super halacha l'maisa, one that we do paskin like in Shulchan Aruch and in the poskim, and that is as follows: Amar Rabba bar bar Chana, Amar Rav Yochanan v'hu shepirsho klape mala. It has to be torn upwards on the nail. And umitza'ara so. So let's say you tear a nail and it's super close to your cuticle. So it's rove, it's most of the nail, and you're just in a lot of pain. There we engage the leniency of Reb Shimon ben Elazar that biyadayim, with your bare hands, you could just quickly pop it off, even though it's going to hurt a lot, but it'll feel better. Once it's torn off, that's considered permissible. Sorry that this was a little bit longer than usual, just a little bit of a more nuanced blot. Mirza Hashem, we will be picking up tomorrow night with Daf Tzadi Hey. I will not be available, unfortunately, for the first blot of the Masechta, the first time, Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, for making me healthy enough to do this. But on Thursday night, I will not be available, and I'm not yet sure if my brother can pinch hit. If he is not available, I will pre-record and have a shiur pre-recorded just like this, same background, with the same shiur, just won't be live, but I will let you know in advance of that. Wishing you a beautiful night. Pleasure to learn with you as always.